The lunch bell rings, signaling a return downstairs. "Ren, you didn't finish your lunch again," Amy says. "I wasn't that hungry," she says. "If you don't eat more, you're going to fade away." Ren shrugs, as if this is an acceptable risk. "Come on," I say, "we better get going." The three of us head down the stairs together. The afternoon class passes. Once again, I find myself without a plan for something to do after school, so I head to the library to return a couple of books I finished reading. Walking inside, I see that there are about as many students here as there were on Tuesday, all the more evident from the almost total silence enveloping the room. As I drop the books I'd borrowed into the return slot in the counter, Yuko suddenly pops up from behind it, quite startled from the banging they make as they hit the trolley next to her. "Ah, sorry, Yuko," I say. "Didn't mean to startle you." No, that's fine. It happens. A lot. I'm used to it by now. Can I help you?" "It's okay," I say. "I think I know where everything is. Thanks anyway." I suppose I'll grab another book or two while I'm here. There's not much else to do, and after reading so much during my stay in the hospital, it's become a hard habit to break. I wander down to the fiction section toward the back of the library, scanning the bookshelves for anything that catches my eye. As I do, I look over to the corner where Hanako had been the last time I was here, not really expecting anything to come of it. Surprisingly, though, she's there, absorbed completely in a fairly thick book. I decide against intruding on her like last time, and I get back to finding reading material. After an indiscernible amount of time spent perusing the aisles, I finally decide on a couple of books to get and slide them off the shelf. With a minimum of fuss, I quickly walk over to the counter, check out my books, and pop them into my bag as I walk out. By the time I leave the main building, sunset isn't too far away. A small trickle of students remain, but the majority have left, presumably to their homes and dorms. Feeling utterly drained, I head to my room to read the books I borrowed. There's been enough action and excitement for one day already. The first is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I know the story, of course, but I've never actually read the original book. It's just as trippy as I remember the story to be, with the wacky characters and the nonsense plot. I start thinking of myself as some sort of Alice, too, haplessly tumbling down the rabbit hole into this cripple wonderland. Okay, that's a rather strong expression. Still, the isolated location and the overt way the school accommodates to absolutely everything is unsettling. It is like a whole another world. I wonder why I can't shake the feeling of being an outsider like Alice, despite most everyone being so hospitable and friendly with me. Turning another page, my mind starts drifting further away from the book. It's quiet. I can hear my heartbeat thumping against the fabric of my shirt. For some reason, it makes me feel really bad, like it has since that time in the forest with Iwanoko, like I was locked into a cage with something nasty and scary. I put the book down for a while and stare at the ceiling, taking my time to shake off the feeling. 200 pages later, I fall asleep. The students roll into class for the Saturday morning session, each and every one of them sporting the tired eyes of people who've worked through the night. With only a day left to prepare, I suppose it's not so surprising. Thankfully, we only have to suffer through classes until the lunch break, and then our time is our own. Muto lurches into class in a tired stagger. I suppose students aren't the only people here that enjoy their late Friday nights. Without saying a word, he scrawls some page and question numbers on the board and slumps down at his desk. It's completely atypical behavior for him, but it appears that no one in the class is going to call him out on it. Wordlessly, the students shuffle their textbooks into position and get to work. Not wanting to break the trend, I do the same. Fatigue has made the class antisocial. Not a peep is heard among the ruffling papers. That can partly be attributed to the 2 empty seats beside me. For some reason, Misha and Shizune aren't present, probably doing council work for the festival. It's very quiet without Misha present. I wonder if she was born as rowdy as she is, or if she is making up for Shizune's lack of voice. Nakai, Muto asks, can I speak to you for a moment? I'm so engrossed in thinking about Misha that I don't even notice Muto approaching my desk. Sure, I say. What's this about? It's probably better if we speak outside the classroom, he says. Something about this doesn't sound too good, but I stand up and follow him out into the hallway. Muto stands in the hallway, scratching his head as he works out what he's trying to say. Not knowing what's going on, I wait silently. I heard from the school's head nurse that you had an incident the other day, he says. Ah, so it's about that. Well, kind of, I answer him, but it's not anything to be worried about. Yes, he says, yes it is. Anything that can endanger your health is something to be worried about. We try our best here to prepare you for life here. Part of that involves knowing your limits and how to work around them. It would be remiss of me if I didn't speak up about this. All right, I get it, I say. I'm sorry. Muto closes his eyes in frustration, and I realize this probably wasn't the best thing to say. Something tells me that you're not sorry, he continues. Pretend as much as you want, but this isn't a normal school. A lot of people have put in a lot of time, effort, and money to make sure that you and every other student here can have the same level of education as your peers. For you to abuse that by throwing out advice, especially medical advice, is plain selfish. I'm not quite sure if this is actually how he feels or if it's some act that he's practiced many times to guilt-trip students into doing the right thing. Either way, it's working. I understand, I say. This is all new to me, and I apologize. I know my limits now, and I'll be sticking to them. Muto appears to lighten up a little, satisfied that his message has been received. So then, on to my next question. How are you finding your studies? I understand you were laid up for a while. We're not too far ahead, are we? I don't really think so, I answer him. I tried to keep up when I was in the hospital, so it hasn't been too hard. Muto chaps his chin and raises an eyebrow as he absorbs this information. Is that so? I suppose there are still students out there who realize the importance of learning. I wouldn't go that far. I was only trying to keep myself occupied in my little life support prison. Well, yeah, I say, you've got to keep up with these things, right? That's exactly it, he says. One wrong move in this world and you're left behind, right? Right, I say. Wouldn't want that to happen. No, you wouldn't, he says. Every week there's a new scientific discovery. Most of them mean nothing to the layperson, but any one of them could be the key to the next big thing. I'll keep that in mind, I say. It's obvious that Muto's serious talk is over, and he's gone back to his standard, slightly scatterbrained approach to life. I think in hindsight that I prefer him this way. He's slightly more predictable in his unpredictability. Well then, he says, I think that's all I really had to say. Let's get back inside, shall we? My relief at that suggestion is insurmountable. Sure. You're the boss, right, I say? Muto pauses for a moment. I don't think any of my students have ever said that to me before. For an instant, I consider replying to this, but something deep within me tells me to shut my mouth and get back into the classroom. A few of the students jump at the sound of the door, rapidly trying to pretend that they are working on the questions on the board. Some don't even bother, their heads slumped on the desk as they nap. Thankfully, it would appear that Muto does not even notice them. He returns to his desk and retrieves a scientific journal from one of the drawers. I guess I got to him there. The class returns to the near silence that Muto and I left it in before our chat. Mixed feelings of tiredness and anticipation buzz about the room. Everyone here is either waiting for a chance to rest or the chance to get their last-minute preparations underway. The clock on the wall slowly ticks the remaining class time away until finally the bells cry out, ending the torment. Muto starts. Before you all leave, I expect the answers for those problems by Monday. The class sighs as one, instantly regretting slacking off, but still acutely aware of the more pressing issues at hand. The classroom empties in a blink as everyone rushes to their last-minute festival preparations. I stay behind and try to quickly finish the questions so I don't have to bother with it over the rest of the weekend, with the festival and all tomorrow. Apart from me, Hanako is the only one left, obviously waiting for Lily. It's weird that Lily comes all the way to our classroom to pick her up. I expect that moving around is at least nominally harder for her than it is for Hanako. But it's none of my business, and I naturally don't ask about it from Hanako. Despite the relative proximity of our seats, neither tries to strike up a conversation about that or anything else either, so an oppressed silence falls upon the classroom. Time passes in silence. It's probably just 15 minutes or so, but it feels longer. I turn pages of my notebook. Hanako turns pages of the novel she's reading. My pencil lead splinters against the paper just when I was about to finish a paragraph. The sounds of my irritated sigh and subsequently fumbling around for a sharpener feels like they're breaking the mood in the classroom. Hanako keeps her eyes firmly away from my direction. Before long, Lily's tall figure appears in the doorway. "Hanako," she says. Her name is all it takes to make Hanako jump up from her desk and run to Lily. They talk quietly for a moment, but it isn't long before Lily leaves down the hall and Hanako idles back into the classroom, taking her seat once again. I watch Hanako out of the corner of my eye out of sheer curiosity at the idea that the two would be separated. For a couple of minutes, she does nothing but sit with her chin in her hand, staring at the desk dejectedly. The boredom evidently becomes too much for her, though, her slender frame reaching into her bag and pulling out a small book. Come to think of it, that isn't the one I saw her reading at the library. She must be quite a fast reader to get through them at this rate. After about 10 minutes of restlessly shuffling in her seat and trying to read, Hanako closes her book and leaves too. As should I, since the assignment is all but finished and there's nothing else to do in the classroom. Not that I have anything to do anywhere else either. The school is a beehive of activity, but nobody pays me any heed. I saunter past classrooms filled with students, frantically doing this and that, buzzing around like little worker bees. You wouldn't guess the school day is over. It is a bit quieter outside, but not by much. People zip by left and right, hurrying as quickly as they can, busy and energetic. I feel the opposite. The midday sun seems to be draining all the spirit out of my body, making it feel limp all over. Warm, soft air flows inside my shirt, feeling like a cushion. I yawn lazily, thinking about what I'd do. I'll drop off my books at the dorms first, and then something I haven't decided yet. Maybe Kenji is in his room. On the way to the dorms, I spot Amy coming my way, running despite not having those weird running prosthetics on. I wave at her and she skids to a stop. "Yo, Hisao," she says. Splatters of white and green paint adorn her nose and chin, respectively, but her smile is wide as it seems it always is. She leans closer to me, amplifying the feeling she's examining me. "What you doing?" Nothing really," I say. "I don't have anything to do for the festival, and everyone else seems to be doing something important." That's perfect, she says. Then you can help me and Ren. With the festival preparations, I say, I'm not sure if I would be of much help. That's fine. I'm not much of help either, she says. Amy grabs my wrist and starts dragging me back inside the school quite forcefully. Even her walking speed is more like jogging, making me stumble over myself simply trying to keep up. The stairs slow Amy down a little bit. Maybe it's hard to climb with her legs, or maybe she's finally run out of breath. We go all the way back to the 3rd floor and to the seniors' hallway, ending up where I left 5 minutes ago. I could just as well have stayed here waiting for Amy had I known. So are you? Is Ren working on that mural still, I say. That's right. She needs all kinds of paints and brushes and stuff, so I went to get them from the art classroom. And you needed me to help you with that, I say. Well, Ren told me you'd already helped her, so I thought you wouldn't mind. I see, I say. So thanks to Amy's flaky logic, here I am again, collecting stuff from the art classroom for other people. The room is empty apart from ourselves and the lonely specks of dust floating in the air. Amy skips straight away to the back wall, digging out a tiny crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. While she tries to make sense of the scrawled handwriting, I take a closer look at the materials lying around here. Dozens of paint cans and bottles are arranged on the shelves in a most unorganized fashion. Some look like they've been left here for several decades, relics of previous art club generations. Next to the heavy stacks of neatly piled drawing paper are boxes full of different-sized brushes and unsorted crayons. The smells of paint, turpentine, and fresh paper float in the stale air, mixing in my nostrils to form that unmistakable scent of art. Amy studies her notes, comparing them to markings on the various paint cans, and passes them to me as she finds the correct matches. She stretches her neck to look on the topmost shelf, but it's not quite enough. Her eye stays level below the shelf no matter what she does. Amy gives up and just looks up to the shelf longingly, like a child at a toy store, huffing in annoyance. After a moment of building anger, she starts jumping up and down, apparently trying to speed read the labels. During the fraction of a second she can see them and catch what she can. It's no surprise that she fails miserably and almost manages to bring the entire shelf crashing down. Now I see why me lending a hand here would be useful. Come on, I say, let me do that. You can't jump high enough, and I don't want you to hurt yourself trying. Also, I'm like twice your height. You are not, she says. She turns around, flaring scorn, flushed cheeks and all. Just kidding, just kidding. Anyway, I'll look up there, okay? She glares at me one more time, but can't come up with a retort. With a grudging turns her back to me. So I've been scrounging around the top shelf for paint, while below, Emmy crouches to scavenge what she can from the cupboards. I shake my head a little after double-checking to ensure she can't see me doing so. Amy having a complex about her height was a surprise. I wouldn't have joked about it otherwise. She seems easygoing, but I guess everyone has their weak spots. Only after we have almost all the items collected and spread out on a desk like a treasure hunter's spoils, do I realize that it wasn't necessarily the height jab that got her riled up. She might not like to be told that she couldn't do something, like jump. But Amy herself seems to have forgotten all about it already. Quick to anger, quick to forgive. Is she that type of person? At least she doesn't seem to have taken anything to heart, as she chatters away happily while we pick up the rest of the items and then make our way back to Ren. I chivalrously carry the bulk of the materials as we make our way towards the dormitories. Ren is really stressed about getting her painting done, she says. It's her own fault, though. She should have started earlier. Is she going to make it, I ask. No idea, she says. It looks good to me, but with Ren, you never know what's going on. I found her this morning lying in front of the dorm in fetal position. She hadn't slept all night. I can't believe that the night nurses hadn't found her. And now she's painting again like crazy. Yeah, I said, I've noticed that she comes off as kind of unhinged, so to speak. Emmy giggles at that, as well as my likely too obvious awkwardness. I don't mind it, she says. She's just a little weird sometimes. On that I can agree with her. Unlike me, Amy seems to be cool with Ren's whatever it is that feels so off about her. Still, they don't feel close like Misha and Shizune do. With them working as a single entity sometimes, it's hard to say where one ends and the other begins. Even though they're so different, just like Amy and Ren are. And Ren is the most different of them all, different from anyone else I've met. Yeah, I say, I guess she's a very unique person. I'll return to that word again as if it encompasses Ren's personality by itself, but really it's just a substitute for a lengthy description of her oddities. Emmy giggles as I grasp about for a properly descriptive word. She's just weird, she says. You know, earlier, she just spent half an hour sitting on her box and stared at her toes. She giggles again in a way that makes me think she doesn't know what's funny about it. It just is. All that time, she says. The working area is a mess, but the mural itself has taken over even more of the wall since the last I saw it. The disfigured human figures have been mostly colored in tones of red, pink, and orange, weird, imaginary things populating the spaces in between. It looks nice. I can't think of any word that would describe the work concisely and comprehensively, so I settle myself on a nondescript nice. But honestly, it seems like the area around the wall becomes untidier at the same rate as the mural progresses. The ground is littered with dozens of paint cans, various art supplies, and empty soda bottles. Ren herself is in the center of this chaos, standing there looking very cozy as if she were a natural part of the scene. Her pants legs have been rolled up to her knees, exposing her thin legs which sport a drying spectrum of war paintings, similar to those on Emmy's face. Emmy sprints to Ren ahead of me and gleefully jumps in front of her. "I'm back," she says. "That was fast," Ren replies. "Did you run in the corridors again?" "Hisao, help me," she says. Amy points victoriously at me. Ren turns around, following Emmy's finger with her eyes, looking in my general direction. She nods absent-mindedly at me. She looks like she hasn't slept since last night, a vacant, glazed stare that's focused slightly off me and movements like in a slow-motion movie. "Hello, Hisao. Thank you for the help," she says. "Don't mention it," I reply. "I just did," she says. "Never mind," I say. "Looks like you've made progress, looking good as far as I can tell." "But now you get more bad luck," she says. "I know, but I'm willing to take the risk." "That's a very nice thing to say," she says. "For me, of course, not for you." This is why artists are always unlucky. They have to constantly look at their unfinished paintings. So artists can't find romance, their favorite TV shows are canceled, or they die young because of an unspecified disease. It's a deep and mysterious law of the universe, Ren continues. Unless they are blind. She considers this for a moment, looking like she's going to fall asleep. "There is a boy," she continues. "At the art club, you see. Blind boy, so he doesn't see. He should become an artist. No bad luck, guaranteed. Don't you think that would be a good idea?" she asks. "That only blind people should become artists?" I ask. "No, not as such." You might have a point, Rin says. Abandoning this train of thought, she turns again to consider her work and starts humming a tune that I think I recognize but can't remember the name of. Amy arranges the supplies we brought and moves a few paint cans around, trying to bring some organization to the scene. Amy, Rin says, I need the Prussian blue paint. Which one's Prussian blue? She says. She is staring helplessly at 7 or 8 cans, each with a different tone of blue. It's the one with Prussian blue paint in it, Rin says. Geez, Rin, Amy says, you're not helping at all. I look around as well, even though I don't know what Prussian blue looks like either. I wonder what the blue has to do with Prussian. Or what Prussia even is. The name sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't place it. While none of the blues look more Prussian than the others, the small print on the labels is legible enough to determine that none say anything about the contents being Prussian. There's no Prussian blue here, I say. We need to go get more then, Amy says. I opened my mouth to say that actually we're not both needed for such a simple task, like finding another pot of Prussian blue, but Amy's already grabbed my arm and started dragging me off. I waved to Rin, who doesn't seem to have noticed that the two of us are even leaving. Well, she'll notice when she goes for her Prussian blue and finds out it's still not there. Maybe. Probably not, actually. And we've reached the weekend, one day away from the festival. My God, you want to talk about cultural differences. The whole concept of going to school on a Saturday, even if it is only for half a day, is just mind-boggling. I can't imagine anything like that ever taking place over here. As you see, there were no decision points to be made in this particular episode. It was pretty much just straightforward linear story. But there are things to watch out for. For instance, here where we saw Hanako in the library and the scene with her and Lily in the classroom and all. It's good to keep those in mind because as we go down other stories, you'll see that these are basically, right now, think of it as like the new Star Trek movie. You know, this is alternative timelines that you see playing in the background. You know, here we see her in the library, but we don't go. We decide that we'll just let her be and we won't intrude on her and we'll let her just sit there and read her book. That sort of thing. And in other timelines, whenever we're doing other stories, we might go over there and talk to her, at which point I can't remember off the top of my head exactly, but we might talk to her and like leave the library, and in the background we'll see Rin and Emmy working on the mural, you know, without us. So it's good to keep these little things in mind, and I'll try as we go down other routes, I'll try and point them out as well. This particular visual novel has that aspect in it, and that the girls that you don't date go about their lives. They're not just sitting around waiting and pining after you. They are going about their lives and doing what they do while you are with one of the others. You know, example would be the classroom scene where we're there and Misha and Shizune are not there here for the Saturday class. And whenever we're doing the Shizune line, we may find out where they are and why they decided to skip all their classes that day. And that brings us to Dear Sweet Emmy and the whole reason for the title of this particular episode, Conscription. As she comes along and finds us, now that she feels responsible for us, she comes along and finds us and drafts us into helping her gather supplies for Rin. As you see, there really isn't a huge amount of difference between her and, let's say, Shizune. In both cases, we've been grabbed and taken to go and do chores for other people, really against our will, because we weren't planning on it. We just got kind of dragged along. It's just the manner of the abduction that makes all the difference, being that Shizune is all about intimidation and authority, And Emmy is all about guilt tripping us and using puppy dog eyes. So it all kind of depends on which flavor you particularly have a leaning toward. So we will see how this continues on here. And we will have the other episode up shortly.